The lurking secrets of the 401k finally explained to you that they have never told you and they still won't tell you. But guess what? I will. Yes, will be revealing to you in this exciting episode the 401k scam finally revealed, okay? If you don't know what I'm talking about, pay close attention because I'm gonna break this down for you very easily in a step-by-step fashion because I think this is really important. Why? Let's start off with a very simple case scenario. You got my friend here, let's just call him Steve, okay? Because I know Steve is a cool guy. Why? Because Steve contributes to his 401k currently at the max, which is basically $19,500 right now, right? That's the maximum you can put in as of 2020, 2021. What else? He takes advantage of his company match, which is 3% in most cases. So usually it's like you can contribute, they'll match you dollar for dollar for up to 3% of what you put in, or sometimes it's 50% of the dollar up to 6%, whatever. And inside that 401k, he invests mostly in mutual funds, okay? Something like maybe the Retire 2060 fund, you know, they have those type of funds in there. But guess what? My good friend here, Steve, is sad. Why is Steve sad about his money? I'll tell you why. Because even though the average 401k value has gone up and is around $112,000 right now, yes, especially since as of last year too, in 2020, when savings rate went up significantly higher because of all the economic issues. That's what tends to happen. People get scared, they tend to save more money. But you'll see that the average 401k returns in the last 5 years have been around 7%. But Steve is sad because if you look at the average S&P index return, it's been about 15%. Hold on, time out. Yo, Steve, I'm with you. Where'd the rest of the money go, right? 7% returns in your 401k, but 15% has been in the market. Where's the difference? Stay tuned. So something sounds pretty fishy around here, right? And that's what I really want to emphasize to you in this video, okay? As we go through these several phases, I want you to think about the fact that most Americans, including myself too at one point, have money in a 401k account, in a Roth 401k, an IRA account. And there's trillions of dollars of Americans' money in there, and yet most of us don't know anything about it. You don't really know anything about how it really works, what the plumbing is behind it, okay? And so what I want to do is share with you this information so that you can make a decision for yourself. I'm not telling you to do a 401k, and I'm telling you not to. I'm just sharing with you the information that I have gathered for myself that have allowed me to conclude that 401ks are a complete scam, and that I'm going to present to you so that you can decide for yourself what you want to do with it, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's all about, and that's going to be the key word I'm going to share with you, education, okay? So why is our friend Steve not seeing any money in his account growth despite the fact that S&P is growing? Well, it all starts with phase one. We got to take it back, okay? And by the way, most of this is that I'm talking about, this presentation is going to be based on a presentation that I viewed from a gentleman by the name of Andy Tanner, he's like an author, very well-known personal finance, personal wealth guy. Man, I love his stuff. And this is what his interview was. This is what this is based on, and it's very solid. I researched it. We're gonna go into the details with the numbers. But let's start with phase one. Phase one is corporate America. Corporate America scams you. How? Okay, what's interesting is that, where did the 401k start? Well, let's go back in history. Basically, it starts off in the 1800s, okay? American Express, and we know them as a credit card company, but back then they weren't into credit cards. They were doing other stuff. They were the first to reveal the first pension plan, okay? So we all know about the pension plan. The pension plan is the thing that, well, the idea was that if you come work for me and put in your 30 years, not 30 hours, but 30 years or 40 years, whatever the case may be, I will then afterwards take care of you for the rest of your life with a guaranteed income that will come in every single month. That was the pension, right? And so what was interesting about that is that into the 1800s and into the 1900s, it actually caused a lot of people to go to college. Going to college became more popular because then if you go to college and then get a job then you know you were guaranteed to have security. But what's interesting was that there was a trade-off for it, okay? There's a trade-off because, yeah, you may have security, but you won't have freedom. Your income and your livelihood will be dependent on me providing this pension to you. The company's saying this to you. And so as long as you're okay with your freedom and your liberty and everything that your all your freedoms tied to this company providing you the pension, then you're okay. If you didn't like that, then you hated this deal. You were like, no, I don't like this deal. Now, the fact of the matter is that you were never going to be rich with the pension plan either. You're not gonna get rich. You're not gonna get rich, but we'll provide you with enough money just so that you stay secure. You know, some people are like that. Some people are like, hey, I just want to be secure and I just want to just get by. While some people are like, no, I want to be rich and I want to be free and I want to travel the world and I want to be my own man. Everybody's different, but a lot of people took to this idea of the pension plan. Okay, fast forward into the 1960s, you have this car company called Studebaker cars. I've never even heard of it, right? But basically, there were some pretty good cars, but they were going bankrupt and they were having financial problems. What was interesting was that people who were employed with them were starting to get scared about, like, well, what about our pensions? Turns out Studebaker cars weren't really funding the pensions that they were supposed to. So there goes corporate America scamming you at phase one already, okay? They weren't funding the pensions like they were supposed to. They're going bankrupt. People are worried. That spurs JFK at the time to investigate companies that were not funding their pensions. And they were going to start doing some legislation. Well, as history would have it, JFK he's not with us anymore. And then a whole bunch of presidents go by and nothing happens until 1974. Where the ERISA Act was passed, and that's the Employment Retirement Income Securities Act. Basically, it said that it told companies that, you're not gonna be able to get away with not funding your pensions. You must fund your pensions, you must fund it appropriately, and you gotta take care of the worker and their spouse too. Bet. And so companies were like, they kind of didn't like that. They don't like being regulated. And so what happened, there starts to be this percolation of resentment versus the worker and the company, right? So anyway, moving to 1978, this is interesting. So meanwhile, 1978, randomly, a piece of code in the tax code, a piece of legislation is written into the tax code in section 401k that basically allowed rich executives, rich executives who would get all these like super high bonuses, but then they were taxable. They didn't know what to do with these taxable bonuses. They needed something to do with it. 401k, the provision that was written into the 401k basically allowed them to pack it away into this little 401k account where they wouldn't have to pay taxes on it, and it would save them money, save the company money, and save them money, right? So that's what the original 401k was designed for. It was originally designed for rich executives to like avoid paying taxes on bonuses. Okay. All right. Then in 1981, there's a gentleman by the name of Ted Banner, who was a pension consultant at the time. He basically was working with businesses to help them relieve them of their tax burden, right, from bonuses. And there's one bank that was like worried about it. So what he did was he proposed to them a way to reduce their tax bonuses from their rich executives. But the problem was that they would, in order for that to work, it would have to be applied to all of the employees, right? All the employees would have to want to like defer their bonuses into this tax deferred account, the 401k account, and whatnot for it to work. But the thing was that, these rich executives are getting like tens of thousands of dollars in bonuses. So for them, saving thousands of dollars in their taxes was a good deal. For the regular worker, it was like probably gonna be like $40, $50. They were like, who cares? I don't care. I want my money, right? So what did they do? Ted Banner told them, how about you offer them a piece of bait? Give them some bait to like make them think that they're getting something of value from the 401k by offering them a match. Okay, so that's all that was. The match came up so that they could get employees to like jump on the bandwagon. And then in 1981, the bank didn't they didn't want to do it, but Ted Banner ended up starting up his own company. And in 1981, he started up the first 401k account. Wow. Now I want you to pay attention to something that's extremely important about this story in phase one. That never, okay, was a 401k ever designed to be a vehicle for the average guy or gal like you and I to actually build wealth. It was never designed for you to be used as a retirement vehicle so that you could build wealth and live your dreams, live freely, live comfortably after your working career. It was never designed that way. It was designed originally for rich executives to pack away their huge bonuses and not pay taxes. Think about that. If that's the case, that means that you got to think about it. If it was originally designed for you and I, it would have probably been written a different way. It would have probably been designed differently. The fact that the intent was never for you and I is huge. It's huge to think about how that this entire thing is a scam. So this is phase one. Corporate America is scamming you. What's next? And but we're not done yet, my friend. Corporate America is still scamming you, okay? So I want to talk about this before I get to the next people who are scamming you, okay? But take a look at this because this is interesting. Remember that corporate America switched from giving you a pension to a 401k, okay? Because remember, and this is significant too, Andy Tanner talks about this, and this is a really, really good point that I really want to bring to your attention. You got to consider the fact that what was significant about the pension and the 401k was the way the funds were being given to you. In the pension, it wasn't a form of cash flow, right? Think about it, because it was guaranteed cash money coming to you every single month, okay? So in month one, you have a known amount of cash flow coming in. You know what bills you're gonna take care of. They get taken care of, done. There's no uncertainty there. There's no, I don't know type of thing. You know pretty much what's happening there. Next month, same amount of cash flow, pay bills. Same amount of cash flow, pay bills. No problem. And whose responsibility was it to provide this cash flow to you? The company. The company. It was their job, because remember, that was their initial promise, was come work for me for 40 years and I will provide you with a pension in exchange for take care of you for the rest of your life. People are like, okay, I like the sound of that. But we don't realize what happened was when we switched to the 401k, they actually screwed us over. Think about this, because the 401k is not a function of cash flow anymore. Cash money in your pocket, in your pocket every single month, guaranteed. It's a function of the balance sheet. In other words, you're looking at an account balance. All of us have it, like on Fidelity, Vanguard, wherever, whoever manages your 401k at your job. You're looking at a balance that's telling you, well, this is how much you have in your 401k today. And then tomorrow you look at it, oh, by the way, it's down now because the market went down 5%. So this is how much you have, 5% less, or whatever the case may be. So you don't really know how much cash is coming in or how much you're going to need when you retire to pay those same amount of bills that, guess what, are coming every single month. Okay, so what's the problem? The problem is that the responsibility to build this account so that you have enough cash money in that account to fund your retirement and your living is yours. It's on you. It's on you to build this thing. But what's crazy about it is that most of us don't know much about like working, doing our jobs, and most of us don't know much about investing. All of a sudden, you have to learn how to do stocks, bonds, real estate. You got to invest because the responsibility is yours. And the corporate America has shifted the way to you. But oh, by the way, they still have you working 30, 40 years for them, right? Remember that deal? What happened? That sounds pretty shady to me. They lifted the huge benefit from coming to work for 40 years for them and then still have you working there and then force you to do all the retirement. Because remember, they were so bad at funding the pension funds that they were supposed to do in the first place. They went in and got slick. You used the 401k and shifted all the responsibility to you. That sucks. And oh, by the way, when I talk about balance sheet, you may not know, I'm talking about balance sheet actually takes into account all your assets and liabilities. That's what that is. And then when you take the difference between it, that's your net worth. So what it is really now with the 401k, it's your responsibility to build your net worth high enough so that when you retire and the distributions you take will be enough to support you in your post-working career and retirement years. Okay, corporate America has been scamming you, but guess who else is scamming you? In my opinion, Wall Street. So that's phase 2. Wall Street scams you. How? Well, remember, our Steve friend, and that's you and I as well, right? When we're contributing to our 401k account, that money is being pulled out of our account, out of our paychecks pre-tax, and then dumped into a 401k account. in the 401k account, the only thing that you generally have available to you are these mutual funds, some index funds, but very often there's not that many on those funds. Now, when you put those money in those funds, Wall Street and the money managers there are salivating. Why? Because that increases their AUM, also known as assets under management. And why is the amount of assets they have under management, the amount of cash, which is trillions of dollars, by the way, that they have under management, a big deal? Fees. Can I repeat this again? Fees, okay? Why is it that Steve was seeing earlier only 7% returns, even though the S&P has been returning on average in the past 5 years 15% of returns? Primarily because of fees. What? Yes, the fees that they charge in for you to put your money in the mutual fund. Many times it can be in for the stocks that are inside the fund as well. All kinds of fees. Now, for me to really demonstrate to you how nasty these fees are, I gotta show it to you with some numbers on the calculator right here. Okay, so according to Investopedia, you can see that the impact of fees is huge, and you're gonna see why. First of all, the type of fees that you'll see will depend on the mutual fund that you're in, the type of index fund you're in, whether it's actively or passively managed, whatever the case may be. They say a large proportion of them are about 0.5%, but you can see them average between 1.5% to 2%, depending on the assets under management, right? And even at times you can see 2% fees as well. But let's take a look at what they're saying here. They're saying that if you take 3 hypothetical friends, Joe, Tyler, and David, each of them invest $100,000 in a mutual fund at the age of 35, based on an annualized return of 8%. The account charge and the accounts that they get hit with are 1%, 2%, and 3%. David would have paid 3% and would have only $432,000 in his account by the age of 65. So 30 years later. Tyler, who paid 2%, he'd have $574,000. Joe, who only paid 1%, well, he still has $761,000 saved for retirement. Now, just to make sure that these numbers are accurate, I actually went to one of my favorite calculators that I like to use, which is Dinkytown, and I went ahead and plugged in the numbers so that we can see for sure if it's legit, right? So they have a nice little calculator where you can compare investment fees. So the story was $100,000, right, for 30 years with no extra contributions at an annualized rate of 8%. One person was paying, 1%. We can try to kind of fix it here. If I just fix it and say 1%, 2%, and 3% fees, then you can see that if you come down here, you can see that the final number here was, $761,000 for the 1%er, and then $574,000 for the 2%er, $432,000 for the 1%er. And if you look back here, that's actually exactly the same numbers. That's the exact same numbers. So the calculator is legit. But I want you to show you something that I thought was interesting. How much would they have had if they didn't pay any fees at all? So 0%, I'm just going to put like 1%, and I'll leave the 3% on there. If you look at this number, the balance would have been $1 million. $1 million if you hadn't paid any fees. But because you paid fees, even up to 3% fees led you to an account balance of $432,000. What's the difference? That's over $500,000 difference. $574,000, almost $600,000 went to fees. $600,000. The bulk of the returns went to Wall Street, to the financial guy, and the rest of your money you got to keep. Can you imagine that? That's insane. Okay, let's take another example. If you just started off with $1,000 and invested it over 40 years and didn't do anything else, but at an 8% annualized rate, if you had 0%, 1%, 2.5% fees, at 0%, you would have earned $21,000. You see that down there? $21,000. But just with the 2.5% fee, your balance comes down to $8,500. That's right. Wall Street takes $13,000. They get the bulk of the returns. You've taken all the risk, you put in all the money, and they get the bulk of the returns. Wow. So as you can see, the fees that these funds cost you and charge you just for even putting your money into these mutual funds, and that's which is the only thing that's available when you put money in a 401k account, can be the difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars. Can you imagine that? And over the long term, they take the majority line share. It's insane. So if we put down a chart here to kind of calculate who is winning here, okay? It's you and Wall Street. And these are 5 different categories to think about when we're talking about our money as investors. And yes, you may say, oh, Chris, I'm not an investor, but remember we talked about you are by default now, because guess what? The responsibility is on you. It's on your responsibility to know what's going on with your money and make the appropriate changes. Once again, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just here to share with you some information to have you start thinking about this. Just think about it differently. Maybe it inspires you to do something, maybe not, but at least you got some information to chew on.